has made a name for itself in horror games. Layers of Fear, the terrifying Blair Witch, and now The Medium. It's an ambitious title using the power of the new Xbox consoles to let players navigate two worlds at the same time, and I'm assuming that's going to mean it's twice as scary. Here to tell us more are Wojciech Piiejko and Jacek Zieba. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us from Poland.
Oh, and thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. We're thrilled to talk to you today. So The Medium made a strong impression when it was announced a few months ago. For those who maybe missed the unveil, what's the game about?
Okay, so The Medium tells a story about Marianne. She's a medium, haunted by visions of a child murder. And during the game, she will be trying to solve this horrible mystery.
Yeah, of course, it's another psychological horror when we can evolve our approach to this genre, yeah?
Yeah, that's right. And Marianne will be traveling to this abandoned hotel that we actually see right now. And of course, it's only a small part of the game because what we actually see is like in the middle of the game. So of course, there is more than just the hotel to explore in the game. But yeah, that's the overall plot.
Yeah, hotel is like our center point of the plot, yeah, but of course we can explore not any, yeah, other stuff than hotel, yeah, some forest, etc.
Yeah, and of course, Medium is a psychological horror game, so we will be exploring different topics, and this time we are tackling the topic of different points of view. And Marianne, maybe I will refer to one of the lines from the script when Marianne says that she can see two worlds, but she has never been a part of any of those worlds. So I think she's a very cool character to see things from completely different perspectives. And this is the heart of our game. And we think that is really important in the times of, fake news and all other things that, you can crop the image to get a completely different message. And our game is about this, about unsolving the mystery, putting the pieces together that can affect your point of view and your view on what happened, what tragedy happened in this abandoned hotel resort.
So the setting, an abandoned hotel, say no more. That's perfect for horror, but so much horror comes from what's inside the character. So what can you tell us without giving too much away about Marianne and who she is?
Okay, so maybe to not give too much, we can say that Marianne works in a morgue. And I'd like to think of her like a ghost doctor, ghost
therapist, yeah?
Ghost therapist, yeah, that's right. So, of course, she's living like a normal life as she can, as a medium. But she also helps other spirits to pass to the other world. So that's why we are referring to her like a ghost doctor.
Yeah, and in a way, she's also an underdog. Yeah, because she's not understood by her peers and what surround her, and in the real world and in the spirit world also, because ghosts mostly they are not aware that they are ghosts and who Marianne is. So she's in a really not so good situation.
Yeah, like trapped between worlds.
That's
as we can see.
Yeah, that's such a fascinating concept. I really love the idea of two different parallel worlds, but the idea that there's no one truth.
So we're starting to see here, these two different worlds at the same time, and vastly, different art styles. Obviously, the spirit world is going to be quite a bit different from what we see in the real world. So what was the inspiration for the art style of the spirit world?
I wished I knew her real name.
Okay, so the spirit world is based on Zbigniew Beksiński's painting. He is a famous Polish surrealistic painter. And our spirit world is, not a hell or not even a limbo. It's something between words. And yeah, we are using different tricks to pull it off, to keep the player attention on both words. So as you can see, normal word is mostly bluish and the other word is mostly reddish at that point of the game, of course. So we are doing those tricks to grab your attention, to keep your focus on the both words. And yeah, and Marianne is using different abilities that can help her to get rid of the evil spirits, for example, or solve the puzzles in a game. Like here, we saw her using the out-of-body power to get out of the elevator, which stuck there, and use the spirit blast to create an electricity to escape this trap.
Yeah, like Marianne has a gift. Yeah, like she maybe doesn't like it, but it's still a gift, and she always try to think how she can use it when resolving some maybe mysteries, like in the case of the hotel in our game. So yeah, we see like out of body, we see her energy spark.
Great.
To create some voltage.
Could you
and I
tell
think
us,
what is
Yeah.
can you tell us a little bit more about the environment that we're looking at right now?
Okay, so right now we are in the abandoned office. I don't want to spoil too much, but I would love to say that the game has been designed to flow between worlds. So sometimes you are only in the normal world, sometimes you are dragged into the spirit world by something or someone. Sometimes you have displayed two screens at the same time. So I think you will spend similar time exploring each variation.
Yeah, and now because we talk about the powers and how Marianne can use it, and now we see some environmental puzzle, how we can use real world to affect the spirit world, and now we can see how Marianne use normal clock to change whole the environment in the spirit world.
That's so cool.
Yeah, that's a really interesting gameplay idea. I want to hear more about the different entities in the spirit world. How do we know who our allies are versus which ones are harmful?
The good one, they try not to kill you.
Yeah, I think the good spirits are mostly begging for your help or talking to you, and the bad ones are really nasty and trying to get you.
Yeah, so this is the main difference.
Yeah, but you have powers that can help you to survive those encounters, and even traveling to one of the world may help you. So when the monster comes after you, sometimes you can escape to a normal world where the monster doesn't see you, but you will not see the monster also. But you can, hold your breath and stay in the corner and maybe the entity will pass, and not grab you. So we are, being in each world has pros and cons, and even with the monsters like here, I think the monster played by Troy Baker, of course, appear, and our character escapes to a normal world.
But we are not sure if she's still safe.
Yep.
Thanks so much, guys. It's really cool getting to see that deep look of the medium and what you're all going to be able to be doing with this generation of consoles. But one game, you have two worlds in this game, and one game is not enough for you. You're also working on two games. So Bloober Team is bringing not just the medium, but also remastering their cyberpunk horror classic, Observer. Let's take a look.
Time of your life, live, so that in that good time there shall be no ugliness or death for yourself or for any life your life touches. Seek goodness everywhere, and when it is found, bring it out of its hiding place and let it be free and unashamed. Place in matter and in flesh, the least of the values, for these are the things that hold death and must pass away. The discover in all things that which shines and is beyond corruption. Encourage virtue in whatever heart it may have been driven into secrecy and sorrow. Despise evil and ungodliness, but not men of ungodliness or evil. Please understand. Ignore the obvious, for it is unworthy of the clear eye and kindly heart. A clear eye and a kindly heart. In the time of your life, live, so that in that wondrous time you shall not add to the misery and sorrow of the world, but shall smile to the infinite delight and mystery of it. Mystery. Smile.
Okay, joining us now for a closer look at Observer System Redux all the way from Poland, Tomasz Bentkowski. Thanks for celebrating launch with us today.
Yeah, very excited to do it.
Yeah, thank
Hi,
you so
everyone.
much for joining us today. We're really excited to have you. So Observer was a huge hit when it launched 3 years ago. For anyone who maybe missed it the first time around, can you tell us about the core concepts of the game?
So the game plot is set in year 2084, where the world is a dark place, while people suffer from the nanophage, which was the disease caused by the constant desire to upgrade and augment both human body and mind. And many of thousands of people have died, but there were yet more dark clouds gathering above humanity. The global war called the Great Decimation, the conflict between East and West, which unfortunately has left no winner except for the big syndicates like Chiron Corporation you can meet in game. As there was no one left to stand against it, Chiron formed a new Fifth Polish Republic from the ashes of the world we know today. As you can imagine, rich people got richer, and those who were there only to survive day by day are finding every possible way to escape from the reality which surrounds them. In this cyberpunk world, technology not only messes with human bodies, but also impacts their minds, releasing their worst fears and making them real.
So we know cyberpunk is a game, but really it's a genre. Blade Runner being a huge example of that. So what makes this game unique from other games in that cyberpunk sort of motif?
So creating this world, we were of course much inspired by Blade Runner, which visionary approach settled the cyberpunk genre, in the pop culture. But Observer's world is unique by not only, blending horror with science fiction, but also with placing it in Middle Europe, which is kind of a unique place itself.
And I will say it's pretty stunning, just looking at the graphics here in these environments.
Yeah, and I know that there was a lot of enhancements brought about with the new launch. Could you tell us a little bit more about how System Redux uses the power of the Xbox Series X to enhance the original experience?
So we've rebuilt the graphics very much. We've been able to push, textures to 4K. We're now using the ray tracing and HDR, 4K resolution, of rendering, 60 frames per second. So we're able to show this world like never before. Yeah. So it's pretty much like this, using enormous power of next generation.
And I could stare at pretty images all day long, but let's talk about the game itself. The game's called Observer. What is the role of an observer?
Yeah, so in the game you play as Daniel Lazarski. He's an observer, which is basically a corporate living interrogation tool, able to search for desired answers, by hacking into neural chip and finding them in most inaccessible places, deep inside human mind. And Dan is played, by Rutger Hauer, who himself is cyberpunk, not only cyberpunk, but overall cinema icon, and his unique skills are perfectly completed on depiction. So we wanted to, make this whole Redux as great as possible, and we kept in our mind that we need to do our best to somehow honor his memory.
Yeah, Rutger Hauer from Blade Runner, so that's really awesome.
Yeah, what sort of tools are at your disposal as a player?
So I can explain it in the plot. So after receiving an unsettling message from Dan's son, he decided to find out what's happened to him in the old tenement from where he was calling. As finding more and more about what happened, Dan has finds himself locked down with someone or something murdering people living in this building. Where he tries to find some kind of a pattern and connection to his son, he uses his observer augments, which are, bio and cyber visions, to find any possible clue. And tenement itself is a very combined place with dark stories of people living on every floor. The more you dive into this detective case, the more horror things are happening around you, and the truth can be even more scary than Dan can predict.
Yeah, from what we're seeing here, things are getting a little trippier. Can you talk about what's going on?
So while using neural integration, you'll find yourself in a cybernetic vision of a dark mind. We call it the Dream Eaters. In those places, you'll have to find answers by living all the nightmares, traumas, fears that the interrogated person had experienced. Sometimes you have to hack a dead mind, which affects them by slowly mixing the real world with cybernetic one.
So as we're looking at this, when I think of cyberpunk worlds, I think of modding and cool stuff like that. I don't necessarily think about horror, although I'm starting to see how that can come together. So what are the challenges of balancing a cyberpunk setting and a sci-fi setting with horror as well?
Yeah, so we're fulfilling the horror experience by focusing on the tension, switching places between hunter and prey, creating more and more confusion to the player. Horror is not only a jump scare thing, the worst ones will always be created in our minds, so messing with what the player can see and leaving the space for interpretation creates a situation where the personal fears can play a big part. Yeah, so this is pretty much it is.
Well, thank you again for joining us today, Tomasz. It was really awesome to get to talk to you about this game.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this opportunity.